All right, y'all. Today we'll be reacting to Houndish. He dropped a video 2 days ago called "The Delay is Not Our Biggest Problem." Far from it. He's talking about Destiny 2. Um, as you know, Destiny 2 is in a bad state right now. Marathon. Marathon's dropping soon, ain't it? And then Bungie. Who knows what the fuck's going on with Bungie? So, let's see what Houndish is talking about.
Okay, it's inevitable that we're going to speak about this. Over the last week or so, the vibes in the Bungie community broadly have been quite strange, right? Some players are frustrated, others are angry. And I think an emotion a lot of people won't address right now is sadness. And we'll get onto that. It's odd though, because at the same time, there are a handful of Bungie fans, players who are quite excited for what Bungie are about to do with Marathon and the playtest coming up this week. Which of course is a very weird mix of emotions going on. This follows Bungie's announcement that Shadow and Order is being delayed, undergoing large revisions. It will actually be renamed and include what Bungie refer to as sizable quality of life updates. But
let me see, the update is being changed and expanded. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't played Destiny since the final shape. But it seemed like for a little bit there, it seemed like the saga after the Light and Darkness saga was actually gonna be kind of cool. Like I know, like immediately after it was kind of rough. I mean, because you did just come off of, beating like the enemy that you've been fighting, whether you knew it or not, for the past 10 years, right? So like it's kind of like Endgame, right? So like after that, you kind of have to find, some new footing. And it seemed like I think it was season 3 of the saga, like immediately after the final shape, like it was actually like pretty good, and people were like very, very stoked about it. Well, I don't know what the fuck happened, dude. It was like a just a quick switch. It was like all of a sudden, like everybody was just like not even defending Destiny anymore, bro. It was like, damn. So it says through June, we will continue to have routine bug fixes and stability improvements, continue port modifiers, Guardian games, and the return of the frequent Iron Banner cadence. In terms of communications, we'll be focusing on providing you with updates. Okay, I'm sure how
that means it comes out in June. So we have delay of another 3 months, right? And on a personal note, I think a lot of players will be able to relate to this. Bungie's handling of this announcement and Destiny 2 as they approach Marathon has been very weird. In fact, I'd call it dreadful, right? And I'm not saying this as someone who's now just a massive hater. I'm saying it as someone who is rooting for Bungie, generally speaking. And yes, I'm someone who more than anything wants to play more Destiny 2 in the future. But I also have a willingness to try Marathon out. But as a channel that covers Destiny, Bungie have actually made it very difficult because Marathon was already divisive. And I have to say, Bungie's handling of Destiny 2's forthcoming updates, but more specifically communication, has been shocking. And that isn't because a delay exists or because they've made, a minor mistake here or there. The choice to allow the community to speculate about a possible rumor for this many weeks, only to actually confirm it with less than 2 weeks ahead of the Shadow and Order update, does not show a commitment to the Destiny community, does it? It doesn't show the...
So, okay. My question would be, do you guys think Bungie is trying to quiet quit Destiny 2? Because it seems like they are, right? Like it seems like they are just, I mean, like you see like lack of communication until 2 weeks before a major update, a mid-season update. You hear nothing. And then they come out of nowhere saying like, hey, we have to delay it. So do you think Bungie's just trying to... Because to me, it seems like they're trying to put all their chips on Marathon succeeding. So, like, I just wonder, like, why are they, acting like this?
Bungie are remotely in touch with Destiny. And it also doesn't do Marathon any favors, because while a lot of Destiny players are not excited about Marathon, especially on the PvE side, I can't help but feel that Bungie have kind of shot themselves in the foot by treating Destiny so relatively poorly immediately ahead of Marathon, especially when they'd promised that they could be a multi-IP studio and that Marathon would not subtract resources from Destiny.
It doesn't seem like that.
I hate that I can't keep this a secret.
I
canceled all my food delivery subscriptions and upgraded to Cook Unity, and it's
And the emotion that a lot of people won't really reference here is sadness, right? I know, cry me a river, but that's how a lot of people feel. You'll have seen the creator videos talking about, is this the future of Destiny 2? Is there a future of Destiny 2? Is this the end? And that's why I can't really excuse the way that Bungie have handled things. And beyond that, I would actually say this doesn't even feel like Bungie. We'll have all had our issues with Bungie over the years, but very clearly something else is going on at this point, and Sony, since they essentially have full control over what Bungie are doing, they're calling the shots on Bungie's communication pipeline, the resources they're allocated for various projects, and I'm sure even the timing of some of these updates. In particular, the Destiny 2 update and the proximity to Marathon's launch, which of course has now been changed. And the tone of Bungie's announcements, the empty twids, and what feels like a lack of enthusiasm at times from the studio, to me highlights that Sony's level of control over what Bungie are doing is now having a significant impact, right? While Bungie still has some autonomy, their vision to be a multi-IP studio, with each of these projects having their own dedicated teams, no longer feels like it's true. Players aren't only salty, right? They are genuinely heartbroken about the dialogue between Bungie and the player base. And this is why I can't help but feel that this not only damages Destiny moving forward, but it further damages sentiment around Marathon and a willingness for players to give it a chance. That's frustrating to me on a personal level because I appreciate, while not everyone is going to jump into Marathon and absolutely love it, there would always be folks who have no interest in it for one reason or another. It does actually stifle our ability to give Marathon more support without leaving a sour taste in the mouths of many Destiny players. Overall though, we have this striking feeling that the Bungie of the Halo days, the Bungie of the Destiny days, appears to be largely gone, and I don't personally blame Bungie devs for that. When I say devs, I'm talking about the people on the ground trying to make video games that are fun. I'm sure that most of them would have never opted for Destiny to have been handled the way it has. The same way those people didn't want to lose their jobs in the multiple rounds of layoffs that we've seen over the past few years. And while I'm still willing to support what Bungie do because there are many talented people there who make good video games, it does feel like Bungie's leadership have fed this studio to Sony. Pete Parsons may be gone, but this is his legacy. The situation that we're in is what Bungie's leadership, past and present, have kind of cultivated, sometimes through mistakes and short-sightedness, but quite often through greed as well. And as I've said before, when Pete Parsons reportedly left Bungie, he resigned. And I feel like that's an important tell about leadership's confidence in Bungie's future overall, because if Bungie had come out on the other side of the Marathon launch and stuck the landing, and if Marathon was a huge success alongside Destiny still being supported and receiving content updates, I'm confident that those people at the top of Bungie would have been set to make a lot of money. Yet, Pete Parsons opted to jump, as opposed to being pushed later down the line. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but even when that happened, I felt like it was kind of an indication of where things may be going. And so, here we are. We now have to wait until June to get the next update to Destiny 2, and more importantly in many ways, we'll be waiting until May, realistically, ahead of that June update, to get a sense of what the future of Destiny 2 will actually look like. Because Bungie had said there will be more info on the major update and future plans closer to launch, but a lot of people are anticipating that this could be an Age of Triumph style update for the game, which realistically is probably the worst case scenario, right? If Bungie have chosen or choose to stop supporting Destiny 2, then it makes sense that they would want to deliver a significant update to a bunch of the content in the game to make it as relevant as possible and as complete as possible in a sense, creating some kind of chase there for players to go after moving forward. As we know, the other possibility is that indeed there will be other future expansion content of some sort, perhaps later in 2026 or maybe even into next year, but because of the nature of the delays and Bungie's resource pipeline, they're instead going to do a large update which they hope will create some reasons for players to continue to grind Destiny 2 until we get to that point in time. But, as a lot of people in this community will be saying right now, I think those decisions will hinge on Marathon's performance. We can't tell what the future is going to be, but there is a possibility where, if Marathon does really well, Bungie can use some of those resources to put back into Destiny. But alternatively, Marathon performing at a very high level could also form part of a decision to instead focus on that game and ride the wave as long as it lasts. And the things I'm talking about right now, the way I'm talking about it, is exactly the problem for the Destiny community. It is speculative, which I think ultimately is the biggest reason that Destiny players have been so frustrated. Ultimately, whether you're excited about the future of D2 or Marathon or not, the general sense is that Bungie have been dishonest about where they're going here. Having said that, I also accept a reality where, regardless of what Bungie's plans for Destiny 2 may be, Marathon is such a big deal at this precise moment that Bungie simply do not have the resources to support both of the games. And under the cosh, so to speak, the cosh being Sony, I would anticipate that they're not really being given a lot of choice in the matter. So share your thoughts about it down below. I guess my ultimate point here is that after 10 years of Destiny, After all of the promises Bungie made in the Edge of Fate year, and the assurances that they gave players as they announced Marathon about how they would handle 2 projects at once, the level of trust that's been eroded between Bungie and their player base is incredibly frustrating. And for me, that's on multiple levels because, as I've said before, I'm quite curious to check Marathon out, and I'm also fairly willing to make content on it if it's a fun game. And this is not a criticism of any of you guys or the community in general, but while Marathon was already divisive for the community, it does make covering it even more frustrating because a lot of people feel that there's this almost allegiance that you have either to Destiny or to Marathon. And if you sing Marathon's praises at a time like this, you're essentially saying it's okay for Bungie to have done what they've done with the Destiny franchise. And whether I post Marathon content or not, absolutely, I'd like to say it right now, it's not okay. And of course, people will remember it. As we look through some of the responses here to Bungie's tweet, Fitzy said a 4-month delay for an update that isn't even expansion is very alarming. This reads that you...
Yeah, man, it's... So, it's, to me, it's just crazy. Because it's like... I wonder... if Marathon succeeds... will Bungie still update Destiny? Or will they see that and be like, oh, well, Marathon is performing better than Destiny right now, so we can kind of abandon Destiny. You think Sony will make them do that? Because I've also heard that Bungie is the reason why they keep flopping, like themselves. Like, they are the reason. Like, it's nobody else's fault. It's always their fault. So I just wonder, because like if Marathon succeeds, it'd probably be bad for the Destiny community, right? But then also if it flops, then Bungie themselves could go under and probably shut down, right? So like this studio success really hinges on if Marathon can keep a consistent player base. That is not good. You should never be in that situation. Especially as someone as historic as Bungie.
Grenada Jake said the same thing. I wonder
you
if
made
this delay
Halo
is intentional as to not
1, 2, 3.
Can't say I'm not worried about the state of the game and how that will look by June. So
Destiny 1, Destiny 2, like you made some
so
bangers.
We know there are things to properly look forward to.
And then you go out like that?
These are things that players were begging for half a year ago. Yet things are so much more dire now than they were back then. Player numbers have bled out too much, and it'll take way more than this to bring players back. Furthermore, to hear nothing significant about the roadmap or the state of the game and the big picture plans for the franchise is frustrating. I understand these things take time, but the community has felt so led on for so long due to the lack of communication and expectation setting when it comes to estimated delivery times on these items. Everyone has been under the impression that these things have been right around the corner week after week for the last 6 months, and it's death by 1,000 cuts every single week that we hear nothing. And I'd like to highlight that folks like Mactix are relatively positive figures in the community, right? And this kind of sums it up well. It's wild that you expect people to play Marathon after you treated Destiny like this. Why in the world would you consider investing in another franchise made by your company if this is how you're going to treat your players? And on the subject of entitlement, I think that's a really good point because Bungie are entitled to make another video game if they like, sure. Bungie are also entitled to either have plans for Destiny's future or not. That's the reality of it. But the real damage, in my opinion, comes from these months and months of promises being made, only for Bungie to not deliver on them, then ultimately, a week and a half before it drops to say, yeah, it's not happening yet. You gotta wait another 3 months. We're busy with Marathon. I understand I'm on a bit of a rant here, but it's plain and simply a shocking way to handle the situation. And as I've said before recently, Bungie's position in this regard is completely indefensible. So feel free to let me know your thoughts down below. I don't want to keep touching on this over and over again, so for the moment, hopefully this will be the last time that we make this kind of video in the immediate future about Destiny, but I'll do what I can to cover the important news around the game as we lead up to that update in June. The same will apply to Marathon because it's a massive test for the studio, And ultimately, on a personal level, I just want to enjoy the stuff that Bungie put out again. However, there's no excuse for the poor communication. There's no excuse for the decision making that leads to this point. And I think, unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of people who simply won't forgive Bungie in the way that they've handled this particular problem. So there we have it. And I'll catch you very soon for a more positive conversation, hopefully.
Nah, 100, you hit it right on the head, bro. You hit the nail right on the head. This is insane. Bungie is putting all their chips on all their chips on Marathon, and if Marathon flops, Sony, I don't know what Sony would do with Bungie, but also it might not do that well because a lot of people who were Destiny players gonna see like, damn, y'all did Destiny like this, and y'all expect you to play y'all next game? Hell no. And so like that's a real thing. So I mean, look, I hope Marathon does well for the people who still play Destiny. Right, but I also hope Marathon does well for people who like extraction shooters, because more variety, right? Arc Raiders might be getting boring for some people. Now they have another extraction shooter, a first-person one at that. So, like, Marathon needs to do well for a multitude of reasons, not just for Bungie's sake, but for everybody. And then another thing would be, like, I, in my opinion, I think Bungie is quiet quitting Destiny 2. If I had to, I believe they are quiet quitting Destiny 2. Because there's no way you go weeks without communication, and then 2 weeks before your mid-season update, you then say, "Oh, it was getting delayed." It's either upper management and Bungie, or it must be Sony. But whatever it is, but it seems like Bungie is quiet quitting Destiny 2. So, anyway, that's the reaction. That's all I got. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
She got a body, ayy, and she been calling me daddy lately. Want me to put her in Cartiers, and the bitch deserve it. Put in work for the money, she earn it. Give me top every night, lip service. Now I gotta block these hoes, she worth it. I'm out in Abu Dhabi.